Adams from Fairways of Life, NBC, and the Golf Channel on his way to the Players Championship at TPC Sawgrass, just outside of Jacksonville. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ralph. Hey, Mike. How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic. Thanks for joining us again, Matt.
Pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I think we might have a little bit of delay because you're traveling in the car. Maybe you could let us know about what you think the Players is set up this year for. I think everyone always thinks that this is, a player's course, no pun intended. It's that Pete Dye design is super difficult. Obviously, the 17th is always a topic of conversation. Don't think we're going to get the wins we got last year. And obviously, Cam Smith, the previous winner, is not there this year because he's over at Live and does not have an invitation. Thoughts about this week's tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Pete Dye golf course that continues to evolve. And I remember when I first saw the golf course many years ago now, I didn't like it tremendously. I thought it seemed very fabricated to me. But as the years progress and as they continue to evolve and the way that they set up the golf course, I'm starting to like it a lot more. Part of it may be just coming to a better understanding of the thought process of Pete Dye. And I think a good one to illustrate what I mean by that is take a look what he does on, say, 16 or on 18, where when you're looking at that tee shot on 18, the more that you bite off left along the lake, the more risk that you take. Obviously, the greater the reward and the shorter your approach shot. So thus more control, and the guys are able to stick it even better. Versus where if you take the safe line to the right, you run a very real risk of going through the fairway and ending up in those hillocks over there or in some of those little pine areas. 16 is very much the same. The safer line that the players take off the tee, the more difficult is the second shot on that par 5. And so, that's the way that he does it. It's quite classic with that. The other thought was, like you guys, I'm sure, I remember it. I worked at it back in the days when it was in March, and then it went to May. And May was a very difficult golf course. It was far more lush. The Bermuda had really popped. It was thick, and by that time of year in Florida. And March, you could get a whole variety of weather. You could get some really cold weather. That's not the case this week. It's going to be the start of the week. It's going to be low to mid 80s. And then towards the start of the tournament, there's a cold front that comes through, but it's only going to be somewhere in the high 70s, mid 70s currently. They're forecasting. So I don't think it's going to be a great encumbrance. I don't think they're going to get the wins like we did last week at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. So I expect that the golf course will do what Pete Dye and Deane Beman set out for it to do, which is to be a golf course that provides a darn near equal opportunity, almost regardless of the type player you are, whether you're a power player off the tee or whether you're more of a thinking finesse placement player. It's a golf course that allows really either one of them to prevail.
Well, that's amazing. That's pretty excellent. If we could go as far back as 1974, Jack Nicklaus won the inaugural event. It's a special year. It's the same year I was born. But, we have had such great champions, from Raymond Floyd to Fred Couples, so many memorable moments at this tournament. Do you have any memorable moments or funny things that you've experienced over time over at the Players? It's been,
I think the classic moment in terms of a funny moment, just because you went back in time in the history of it, the first Players that was played here was back in 1982. And when the golf course debuted, it was definitely needing of some little tweaks here and there. I think it was Jerry Pate who won the first one that told me that it was like landing a golf ball on the hood of a Volkswagen with the different places that you had to put it. And when they got done, he tossed Pete Dye and Deane Beman in the the lakes that run through there.
I think we're losing Matt just a little bit there. Oh.
Yep. Good old technology.
He's traveling in his car.
We
Matt,
lost
we're
you a little,
losing you a
Matt,
little.
but let's introduce Jay Delsing. Has joined us there in the bottom corner here. How are you, Jay?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Yeah,
You know,
thanks for
Jay
joining.
Delsing, you know, former PGA player, for those of you who don't know, ESPN analyst. You know, he's done so many different things over time. Beyond the Fairways podcast is another big thing he's doing now, which is very exciting. You know, his very first guest was Faraday. Pretty funny show. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thanks, Rob. How you doing? Mike, what's going on?
Oh, we're living it.
Yeah, aren't we?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's things are going good. We got Matt Adams joining us on his ride over to the Players Championship. We're doing a bit of a group players preview today.
Yeah, I heard Matt talk about the golf course. I didn't play in '82, but I played in '85, and they had made some significant changes. That place, it was a beast before they changed it, and it's still not that easy now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in 1985, are you talking about the year Calvin Peete won?
You know what, Rob?
Is that-
Yeah, he absolutely. I think he
Is-
beat me by 150 strokes.
So Calvin Peete, 1985. I thought it might have been Fred Couples or and how did you do? Did you make the cut?
No, hell no. I'm still with the drop balls out there. It almost sent me to early retirement. I think I shot a pair. I don't know what it was, but I broke 80 both days. But that golf course was so visually intimidating, and it took me at least 3 or 4 times around there until I understood what the hell was going on and how to play it. And you could get to a lot of pins without shooting at pins and all that. And it was way above my pay grade at the time, boys. It's a great event. It was the best fields that I've ever played in, for sure.
And your thought, Matt's joining us as well. Sorry, we lost you there a little bit, Matt. But Matt Adams from Fairways of Life, NBC and the Golf Channel. You know, so many great players. Your thoughts on the designated, elevated, whatever you want to call it, the purses changing. We're talking about a tremendous change. If we're talking 1985 and what the purse was back then to what it is today, Matt, Jay, your thoughts. We'll start with Matt. Your thoughts on the purses. Well, Matt, it looks like you've been frozen in time. We got a great picture of you. You're smiling, and
I mean, it's you just cast a huge.
All right. So, Mike, maybe we'll try to. Unfortunately, we're going to have to mute Matt for a moment and maybe get to Jay, get his opinion.
Good. I'm glad they had to mute you, Matt, because I want to do all the talking anyway.
All right, Matt, try to jump in one more time. Where you're going to log out and log back in. Jay, go ahead.
Are we good?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay.
Okay. So guys, one of the things that look, I'm a gigantic pro PGA Tour guy, right? I hate live. I just hate live. I hate what it's done to the game. But I got to tell you, I'm disappointed in our leadership, and I'm disappointed in the way that we've reacted and overreacted to live. I would have much preferred us to not have any sort of immediate statements. I would have much preferred us to not have any immediate reactions. We all know that the tour has a boatload of money. We have a shit ton of money. We also know that we just came into a brand new television contract. So hence more money, right? So the fact that we have the money doesn't surprise me. And it shouldn't really surprise many. A lot of people are giving Phil credit for, initiating that. I don't know where I stand on that. I have a feeling it would have been done anyways, but I'm not a huge proponent of the PGA Tour increasing the haves and the have-nots within our sponsors. And what it's done is, you know, the four majors are going to be standalone, and they're going to represent what is the most important events in golf forever, right? So we don't, but when you start doing what they're doing now,
5.9 miles. Continue to I-95, Miami, Jacksonville.
Well, we've got Matt.
hey,
and we've
almost
got,
in Jacksonville, we know you're on 95, Matt.
yeah, we got some direction. We got some directions
guys.
to the players right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we lost you there.
Keep me honest. I'm sorry about that. First of all, it's an honor to be on with Jay. I'm sorry that you lost me and I was unable to hear what he was saying. You had asked me about the designated events, and you know, I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it, and I'm trying to keep an open mind to the virtues of what they're trying to do. But I am struggling with the idea of having, in essence, a tour within a tour. And I do think that it's setting up a structure of haves and have-nots. And the first question I had when I heard about it was, well, what's the pathway of ascension? Because I think one of the things that we've all loved about the game of golf over the years is watching players start to come into their own. You can tell that they're getting used to a particular venue, or maybe swing changes they've been working on, or just overall comfort, confidence, and ease at being out there on their own. And they start to become who they are. And then all of a sudden they're in contention a couple times. Maybe it's a 30th place, 15th place, 12th, 5th, and then they win. And then they might win with regularity. And we watch this whole grade. And I could think of a million different players that we watched that with over the years, world-class golfers from Jay on up. I mean, so I hear that and I think, well, they said, well, you know, if you do well in the, I don't know if they're calling them standard events now. I can't remember the terminology that they're calling a regular PGA Tour event, a non-designated event. But in the way that they're calling it a cadence, where you have, you know, some 3 standard events before you get a designated event. And if you finish in the top 5 on average in those 3, then you get into the designated event. I'm shaking my head going, that's not just good golf. That's incredibly good golf. You're still playing against world-class talent. And, you know, I watched what happened with the Arnold Palmer Invitational this past weekend. I thought the Honda was brilliant with Chris and with Eric.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, you know what? The Arnold Palmer Invitational was a full field event. But if you look at that leaderboard, all the stars were there. And yet we still had Kurt breaking through in
Exactly.
winning for the first time. And I think to myself, what's wrong with having a full field event? What's this, if it's, as Rory said, that, you know, by a no cut limited field, you guarantee the television, the sponsors and the host venues and the fans that the stars are going to be there in the weekend. And I think of that and I go, wait a minute, guys, you're the best of the best of the best.
Exactly.
You're going to be there on the weekend. And if you're not there
Right.
in mass, you're going to be there at least in part. So anyway, sorry to get long-winded about it, guys, but I'm really struggling with trying to sort it. And I'm not on board with it yet. Sorry.
I'm just going to jump in here. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Golf Podcast Live. We're here with Matt Adams and Jay Delsing. Vince Cellini will be on soon. Mike, I just texted you the link so you could let Vince in. You know, this is a great subject because I think everybody's got feelings about these designated events because it creates a tier system and it's not needed. If we're going to stick to tradition on the PGA Tour, then certainly we need full field events because now we're creating top tier, second tier events. Now we got a third tier with the Corn Ferry events. As long as you can work your way up, what really bothers me is the no cut, the possibility that these will be no cut 70-player events. Now, this is not, the ink hasn't dried on this yet. However, they are contemplating this, and this is bothersome to me. Jay, your thoughts about no cut system and you know these tiers that we have right now that might possibly become the norm for the big money events.
Yeah, Matt, thank you for the kind words. I feel the same way. It's, you know, I agree with everything you're saying, guys. There's a caste system within the sponsor group, now there's these players that are,
I-95
um,
Miami,
it's
Jacksonville.
going to be
Then use
much
the
more.
left 2 lanes to continue to I-95 North US 92 toward Jacksonville.
We don't want Matt to get lost there. Hold on a second.
Apparently, they don't want me to get lost either.
The left 2
So,
lanes I-95
so what winds up happening, guys, is that, you know, the sponsors want these guarantees, like Rory said, that the stars are going to be around for the weekend. And I think in the last 3 years, the top 10 guys on the money list have missed like 5 cuts total, you know, and so I'm not really sure that's a great argument. I understand the thinking, and I understand if you're going to go back to these guys and say, look, we need $20 million purses now instead of 8, 9, and 10, you know, they're going to want something in return. But what the frightening thing, the really scary thing about this, guys, is this is so eerily similar to what Greg Norman, kind of a D-bag right now, did back in 94 and 97. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to take the top 30. He wanted $200 million. He wanted to play no cut, and everybody go, you know, divvy up the money. And now we're the mission statement of the PGA Tour is to provide playing opportunities for professional golfers. That's their mission statement. This is getting, I don't want to say completely sideways, but it's straddling a lot of lines that I really think they should be leery of.
My concern is we're going to lose out on those underdog stories, right? We all want to see a great field on a weekend, but I think we're limiting the chances of that fantastic story of maybe a Monday qualifier or a lesser known PGA Tour player breaking through and kicking some ass on the weekend. So now they've got to go through the tier system to get into these events. So I'm a bit concerned we might lose some of those touching stories.
Mike, I agree. Joining us now is Mr. Vince Cellini, PGA Tour Champions host and analyst, formerly at the Golf Channel, CBS affiliate. Welcome to the show, Vince.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, still doing Learning Center on Golf Channel. So we have an episode now coming off the Cologuard Classic in Tucson, which turned out to be a pretty good event.
It did. Looking forward to it.
You know, we could shift gears. David Toms, what a win. His third win, I believe, on the Champions Tour, 13 wins on the PGA Tour, as well as some DP wins. I think he's got 2. Even on the Legends Tour, I think he's got 2 wins. So pretty great career. Nice to see him bounce back. And seeing the rookies play well, you know, one great round for rookie Brian Cooper, who actually has had a tough time the last first 2 events, but is showing some fire in his game with round 1. Guys, we'll start with Vince. Your thoughts on how the Champions Tour is shaping up?
Well, I think the nice thing about it is the more of these players like David Toms and Brian eventually, who can get into the mix week after week. I mean, we see the Steve Strickers and the Bernhard Langers, and we see, you know, those players like Padraig Harrington when he plays, he's very, very dominant. Stephen Alker as well. So the more players we can get into the mix, then the more exciting this is going to be. And one of those guys was Robert Carlson, who very nearly stole that away on Sunday from Toms, because Toms once again found the water on 18 off the tee. And so to me, it's exciting because coming into this tour now, and really over the past few years, I think guys thought it was to be like, well, yeah, I'm going to pick up my game again and I'll join and it'll be good to see the guy. It's not like that. I think the guys turn 50, they step on the tour now, and they know that their game has to really, really be sharp, and they have to be good from the get-go, because it's a sprint. It's a 3-day sprint. And if you're not good early on, you could be left in the dust and you really will have no shot. But it was exciting for Tom. So I'm glad he held on. I mean, that was a clutch up and down for bogey at 18. And it's going to be an interesting year. Can Stephen Alker, who came out of nowhere the last couple of years, can he still be a guy who's dominant and put himself on top of the standings? Or is Steve Stricker going to play more? Is Fred Couples going to play more? Fred told me in Hawaii at the opener that he was going to play maybe 15 events. Now that's what he said. But the more events we can get Fred Couples to play in, the more juice that he brings to the tour as well. So I'm just glad to be with the guys. I love the guys. They're great. And I hope people watch the Champions Tour and really appreciate the fact that in this sport, you can still see someone in their 50s and 60s, someone that you've watched most of your life, still compete at a very high level. I think it's very cool.
Well, and Tiger's recently announced that he's going to be playing on Champions Tour, which is, I think, is going to be a huge boom for the tour when that happens, right?
Well, I would think so. I mean, he could play practice round at home and draw a big crowd. So
yeah.
that would be wonderful. You know, the thing we always talked about with Tiger playing on the Champions Tour is, will Tiger give a chance? Would Tiger give these guys, a lot of guys that he really dominated on PGA Tour, would he give them the opening to maybe get him back on Champions Tour and maybe try to get him now? And as for in terms of beating him, in these particular events. But oh my gosh, that would be absolutely amazing if Tiger was a part of Champions.
You're muted, Raf. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Oh, well, we saw that when Phil came out on tour, how much of a boost it gave the Champions Tour, and all the the crowds came out, and new sponsors got involved because Phil came out. Now, if Tiger came out, it would be ridiculous. The purses would go up. We might not see the money the boys are seeing now on the PGA Tour, but certainly the crowds would come out a little bit more, and I feel like a lot of players would come out of retirement. I think Jay Delsing would think about coming out maybe. And,
hey Jay, I didn't get a chance to say hi to Jay and Matt. Hi guys, I never got a chance to say hi. I kind of joined abruptly here. I kind of just like burst in while you guys were.
No, we're glad to have. Let me tell you, Tiger would whip my ass just like he did when I was in my 30s and 40s. So that's not really a story. But if Tiger played Champions golf, guys. I mean, Tiger sticks his head out the window when he wins the PIP program. I mean, you're going to see ridiculous amounts of things happen if Tiger really and truly does play the Champions Tour. And you know what, Vince, would be interesting because Padraig is playing some of the best golf that he's played in his career. But, man, Tiger's, 47 now? So he's got just a little under 3 years. He's going to get out there, and he might win every damn event.
Yeah. Also, because he could be in a cart. So, the major problem here was that he's not able to walk. And I think he won't let his ego down right now. He doesn't want to take a medical exemption of any sorts right now. But when he turns 50, you never know. However, you never know with Tiger Woods.
Can I just say something very quickly about Padraig, who
Sure.
has joined this tour and has absolutely jumped in, head first. He is totally committed to winning, and I think that his commitment long term may be to be the next coming of Bernhard Langer, and to continue to win on this tour and make it his main push throughout the rest of whatever golf he has remaining. But he works out very, very hard. He looks great.
Yeah.
He's increased his swing speed. He's really doing his homework when he goes from event to event. So this process of him joining now has really paid off. I mean, he almost took the whole thing last year. So when he's on board, he's one of the guys definitely to watch. He's been one of the flag bearers for PGA Tour Champions as well. It's great to have him because he's such a great representative of the game too.
It's probably going to excite a lot of the rookies and some of the, the 47, 48-year-olds who are going to be entering the Champions Tour. The field's deeper than it ever has been over the last, 10, 20 years. So I think the excitement for Champions Tour is just going to explode over the next few. And then when the big cat lands, look out.
And you got to remember back in the day, back when I was in my 40s, the Bob Gilders of the world and those guys, there were 42 Champions events. There were a lot of opportunities to play. Right now, there's 25 events. So there's no telling what might happen if Tiger joins this party, man. I mean, there's no. I know that we have the Ascension Charity Classic here in St. Louis, and it's shot up to be one of the most popular events. I'm so proud of our city and our team, what they've done. But man alive, a lot of the corporate America looks at it at now, even an elevated event purse exposure, financially compared to a Champions Tour. And I mean, we're talking about an incredible bargain. And then if you're going to bring, TW on board, man, who knows?
Well, let's not forget how many players are jumping on board right now with David Duval and Justin Leonard, also former Players winners back in 1999 and 1998. Fred Couples, also a Players winner back in 1996 or 7. I can't remember. But the important thing is here that all these players are coming up. They have a following, and the players' fields are getting stronger. Very much like the Tucson events, it seems that the Champions Tour is taking over the events that are getting lost on the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour. I just want to shift over, guys, and get an answer from each and every one of you. Your best player's memory. Maybe something funny, maybe something outstanding, maybe a great shot. Because this is, after all, Players Week, maybe whoever's ready could give us a good memory. I remember in 1993 and 1994, it was Nick Price and how he was firing his irons. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't like to talk about Greg Norman, but he did win the Players back in 1994 or 5. And just amazing golf. Your memories, some of the best memories you have of the Players.
I don't know if I'm on with you guys now, if all it's working. It's good to have Vince on there. It's really cool to be on with a couple of legends with Jay and Vince today, guys. So thank you for that.
Man. Thank you, man.
I was
I'm watching them blush.
I mean, I am old. I guess they get in legend territory when you reach a certain
You're a legend because you're a legend.
We're all wearing caps. We're all wearing caps, right? Because we're on ball.
I got nothing left. I'm going Bruce Willis for my 50th birthday. I've already decided. Yeah.
Lean into it.
Vince and I used to be roommates on the road for a while when we were doing radio too, which was classic.
Yeah.
But I remember I was assigned to follow Tiger when he won the Players last. And we were talking earlier about the kind of risk and reward way that Pete Dye designed that golf course and in the insecurities that he instills in sight lines and et cetera. And Tiger hit this brilliant drive off 18 on Sunday, and it was a left front hole. And he hit a 6-iron that he just carved in there. There was a little bit of a bowl. Sloping towards the water, obviously still, but there was a bridge that he could play off the back, and he played it off perfectly. And it just because we were talking about the influence of Tiger with potentially playing in the PGA Tour Champions, that was a memory that I will never forget. Just watching that shot from behind and seeing the way he shaped it to what was otherwise it could be a very dangerous pin and stuck it was something that I'll never forget.
It's interesting, guys. I can tell you, I'm not sure how many I played in, maybe 8 or 10 of the 5th. I don't know how many I played in, but I did play the golf course in the early 80s, and it was just a monster. The slope on the slope on the left side of the 16th green, sloping towards the water, was ridiculous. There was a massive mound in front of the 8th green that you couldn't see anything for, and the list goes on and on. I mean. And having Jerry Pate, I think he won with a colored ball that year too, Vince and Matt, I think. And then to jump in the water and throw Deane in there, Shelley should have held Deane down. Maybe Pete Dye too. But I can tell you that the golf course has evolved, and the clubhouse now. The thing is an absolute monument it's a PGA Tour monument to itself. Mm-hmm. It is the flagship players course that we have. And, when you're a player, you're a young player, you got to remember 1980s was a hell of a long time ago. And when we had an island green, I mean, I got to tell you, I got out of my car in the morning thinking about it. It was like, I've hit the ball.
Are you, Jay, are you thinking about it like the entire time that you're in your round?
I was, Vince, I was, because you got to remember, there was nothing like that back then. Yeah. These kids now grow up and they watched it on TV for 20 years. We had nothing like that. So we're like, what in the hell's an island green? How are we have to swim out to it? We don't know how, there were all these things that were going on, and to watch it, to watch the way the guys play it now. I can remember, I've had a lot of big numbers that I've made out there, but I can remember on Sunday, they would take the tee on 17 and move it way left. So you couldn't even see the little pothole bunker. Now you got to remember, there's nothing up there to help your depth perception. So you're looking out there, you're trying to figure wind direction. It's a little swirly, and we always play the players in March. So they pull the tee way to the left. It was like 150 yards. Say 150 yards, guys. Ricky Fowler's firing middle wedge in there. I remember one time trying to decide between a 7 and an 8 iron, and I kind of mildly sculled my 8 iron. It just barely carried the ridge and went down to the hole like this far from the hole. And I was hyperventilating the entire time, because I'm thinking this ball's going to be in the back water if it doesn't bury into the bunker. So it happened to go
Jay,
so close I couldn't
Jay,
even
what's
miss
crazy about that story is that last year I was sitting down with Deane Beman, just kind of reminiscing about all that he did. And I'm always amazed by the story that he bought the property for $1 and wrote him a check, and they never even got to cash a check. It's hanging up in that clubhouse you're talking about in the hall. But he got in an argument with Pete Dye about the length of that par 3. And there's a lot of Pete Dye golf courses where you see a par 3 that's similarly kind of, the green is a little bit off angle to the angle of the tee and the flight coming in, but it's outrageously long, sometimes up to 200 yards or more. And he wanted to make that island green a minimum of 165. And Deane Beman said they had a knockdown, drag-out battle about that, and he convinced him that it shouldn't go over 140, and I think it plays an average about 137, somewhere in that range. So it's head-shaking and incredible when you think about that. But Vince, I'm curious from you too. When we talk about the players and its evolution, obviously the tour would love to see it become the 5th major. Where do you think it fits in terms of the game of golf right now?
I think that I like where it's always been, is the unspoken 5th major. There is definitely, to me, a super vibe about going there. It's really cool. It's a great event for somebody to have on their resume, and the guys know that. And I think that the fact that, it is such a challenge, like Jay was talking about, and the fact that you do have the island green, and that you do have those closing 3 holes, that there's always some really great drama there at the Players. Like Jay said, the clubhouse has a different look. It's really a special place. And I think it's not officially a major, and maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it should just be in its own kind of realm in terms of the schedule and what it means to anyone who can come out with a win. So I just think it's a great place. There's always drama there. I think of Davis Love and his shot on 16. I think of Adam Scott. And guys who just were able to kind of navigate that finish. It's
like Craig Perks.
Yeah.
Right. That was unbelievable.
And, so I think that I kind of like where it is now. I think it kind of stands alone, which is also a kind of a cool thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I don't think you can make it a major. I think it's got all the characteristics of a major. It's got the best field of any major, in my opinion. But I don't think you can make it a major. It's just going to tweak the record books way too much. It's going to the golf course.
Good point.
Course is just a strange thing all to itself. So look at the past champions. You've got the top of the heap, and you've also got, and I love Craig to death. He's a dear friend. But, you'll get guys like Stephen Ames, a fellow Canadian guy.
Yeah.
That's one there. You'll get a wide variety of champions because the golf course doesn't suit anyone. If you look at the bet, just from a betting perspective, which is so prevalent in our game today, the Players is the most wide open golf event on the schedule. If you're going to bet something at Augusta, 80% of the winners at Augusta come from the top 16 players in the world over the length of the last 20 years or so. If you apply those same metrics and things to the Players, it is wide open. Number 144 has equal chances, number 1 in the world. And guys, it's because There's got to be left to right off of the tees. There's got to be right to left off the tees. There's got to be different shots hit that, quite frankly, it is crazy ass demanding on the player today. And the ball strikers back in my day handled that better than the great players today. As much for the equipment as anything else. We had the lot of balls. We curved the hell out of those things and be able to do a lot of different things with it. That is not the case anymore.
No. Woody Austin echoes almost those exact words when I talked to him about being a guy who, or you guys who were able to shape shots and how you had to play the game. It's entirely different now. I guess there was a more of an artistic value to it back then, but maybe we can say that for all sports. It's like baseball now. Everything is power, everything is speed and power. So things do change along the way. But I like that. I like the fact that you said it's very democratic in its approach as far as who can win. And I also think because it is the players' event, maybe that's why it should stand alone. Their ownership of it, and it just has its own special place. Not to beat that into the ground, but it's fun. It's a cool place. It's a great place to hang out for the week. And I don't know. What do you guys think? You think we'll have a surprise winner this year?
I wouldn't be surprised to see a surprise winner, but I just wanted to comment on Pete Dye's architecture. Right, he intentionally slopes everything to the hazards, and the hazards themselves are extremely punishing. So if you get in there, a tour player could make a bogey or double in a heartbeat. Amateurs could walk off with a 10 at any given point and around there. And that's just one thing that I appreciate is just seeing the tour players struggle a little bit on a tight, unforgiving golf course like that.
Matt, you might know this, and I don't know where this came from in my brain, which is gone, but didn't Pete Dye's wife come up with the island green concept? Was that
the area where they built the 17th green was basically a sand pit, and they needed to get the sand out of there so they could use it to cap the rest of the golf course. And so they kept digging and kept digging and kept digging. And when Alice was her name, when Alice and Pete were talking about what am I going to do with the green here, she said, why don't you make it a pond? Why don't you just continue the lake right around it? And so she actually was the inspiration for that very, very, very
she oftentimes, Matt, did a hole on every one of his courses, right, Alice?
Yeah, she also did her own designs too. So she was very accomplished. And I bumped into her one time. It was funny. Very early in my career, I was going for a job interview at this place called Bonita Bay, if I'm not mistaken, down by Naples. And I was standing outside the hotel, and this nice woman was standing there, and she said, hello, how are you, young man? What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going for a job interview. And she said, what kind of job? And so we're talking back and forth. And then she hands me her card. She says, if I can ever give you any advice, let me know. Alice died. I thought, geez, who knew? Just legends. It was very kind of her.
Hey, Jay, off topic, going back to we were talking about guys who were shot makers. Who was a really underrated shot maker in your day? A guy that can really do some magic stuff?
Fuzzy. And I don't know if he's really underrated, V, because he did win 2 majors and things like that. But, Fuzzy did a lot of, I think his putter was so hot and cold that when he putted well, he usually, contended. I think he still remains the only rookie to ever win at Augusta, isn't it? I believe that. But Fuzzy was a guy that was, if you look back at, the way that he played, he was such a happy-go-lucky guy. It was hard almost to take him his game as seriously as it deserved. But I got to play probably 15, maybe 20 rounds with Fuzzy. And every time I came off going like, man, this guy, he doesn't putt that well, but he drives the ball unbelievably well. He's out whistling all day long. You don't know if he's 4 under or 5 over, and he's a blast to play with. He's telling you jokes, and he's just, relaxed, where some of the tour players are so type A, a guy like me would just be like, I'll just stay on this side of the green, because you could just, but I think Fuzzy doesn't get nearly the credit for the game that he had. He's one of the great drivers of the ball. Back in the day, guys, I don't want to sound like an old fossil, but I am. The wooden-headed driver, the sweet spot was literally the size of an eraser head. And I had Tom Watson on one of my shows recently, and Tom said that the USGA did a test where they deliberately mishit the current driver 5/8 of an inch off center, and they took an old wooden-headed driver and hit it 5/8 of an inch off center, and the difference was 49 yards. And
Whoa.
Wow.
when you mishit the old drivers, guys, they'd actually go out there head high. They'd actually, go this way. The new everything, this, all the new stuff we've created all goes in this way. And they actually designed the new drivers, the 460 cc's, to hit them high on the toe. And I spent, 25 years of my life trying to figure out where my sweet spot was. And then Kalamat says, hit it high on the toe. I'm like, guys, I can't hit it in the middle. How the hell am I going to hit it high on the toe?
Well, Matt, are you going to be there at the Players?
Yeah, we're driving up 95 right now, Vince. And,
Okay.
gonna spend a few days doing shows up there and
Good.
taking in the spectacle. I was saying to these guys when we went on the air today, and I'm sure you guys remember these days too. March, it seemed to me that March used to be pretty darn cold and rainy in Florida, at least in memory. And there were a lot of players, and even Arnold Palmer Invitationals that I remember, where the weather was downright miserable, even though we're talking about Florida. So this week it's supposed to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be very warm and very beautiful, and I think the lowest temperatures I saw were in mid to high 70s. So it should be pretty strong.
What do you
That'll be
guys?
great.
What do you
That'll be
guys
great.
think a winning score might be this weekend based on good conditions?
Well, it'll be hard and fast. I'm going to say probably 10 under, somewhere around there. What do you guys
Yeah.
think?
It will be hard and fast, Matt. Hard
Yeah.
and fast for sure.
Yeah, no worries, because I followed up because it was back in January.
Do we lose some sound there?
Plus, Ralph.
There we
There
go.
was a-
Can you hear me now?
There you
Yeah.
go.
Okay,
Yeah, we got-
fantastic. Vince, I love the fact that you were talking about how this is a flagship event. So I just wanted to confirm that, this is a standalone event, and it should not be a major by any means. It's a major in its own way on the PGA Tour, but doesn't need to be tagged as a major. And of course, talking about the Persimmon Woods, Mike and I grew up playing with those as well. So I could appreciate that, Jay, playing with wooden clubs, and people don't understand how difficult it is to hit those unless you've actually played with them. And I want to
I
just
saw Greg Norman top a drive down in Memphis. We were playing at the Old Colonial, and it didn't get to the ladies' tee. And I thought about going over to mentioning something to him, but I didn't.
I bet you regret
Well,
that now, don't you?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're in your 60s like me, that's what you learned to play. That's what you played. I mean, that was it. And I remember when metal woods came out, they were just on ranges. They were practice, and it reminded me of high school. When I played high school baseball, I used wooden bats, and you had to really hit the ball well with a wooden bat, still do, to really drive the baseball. And it was the same thing with, Persimmon Woods. So, but I think maybe that gave more of the, Jay, I don't know how to say it, the artistic quality or the athletic quality. Maybe that's what was blended in, not to take anything away from playing this particular equipment, but gosh, I really feel old now talking about.
Well, guys, we lose
mackerel.
Paven, we lose Kite, we lose Mike Reed, we lose Doug Toole, we lose, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but guys, you were long and you were short
Yeah.
back in the day. Now it's just like you're just stupid long or you're just like crazy long. You know what I mean?
Jay, it just goes back to just the scores at the Players. I mean, back in the late 70s and early 80s, scores were 280, 283, 285. Right now, we're looking at 270, 273, 274. That's where the winners are. So it's very different. Lanny Watkins, players like that, Raymond Floyd, all shot makers playing the game. But if there is a modern shot maker, in my opinion, who could really move the ball left to right to left, he won't be there this week. Is last year's winner, Cam Smith. Your thoughts of him not being able to play the event? Obviously, he's now a live player, but being the reigning champion at the Players event, your thoughts on Cam Smith as a player and not being able to come back?
Oh, he's a
Cam
great
is one of
player.
my, I agree with you, Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
No, Matt, please.
I was just going to say he's one of my early picks to play well at Augusta this year. You know, and I don't think it's a reflection one way or another on for or against Liv or whatever your opinions are. Regardless, unfortunately for Cam, he made a decision and he knew the consequences of the decision that he was making, that he wouldn't be back there, whether we want him there or not. I think he's a world-class player. I think he's a great player. I'll tell you another little funny kind of story. Last year at the Open, I was assigned to follow Rory McIlroy Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So they came to me Sunday morning and said, "Hey, Maddie, today we're going to send out another announcer. His name is Ron Jones. Dude is 82 years old. And he was a very, very famous soccer announcer in the UK. And they said, we think he's going to retire. We think it's going to, you know, coronation of Rory in his Open win, 150th Open at St. Andrews. And it's a great way for him to say, what a perfect way to go out. So he said, I hope you're okay, but we're going to send you. And I was broadcasting with Paul Eels from the European Tour. We're going to send you guys out with the Cams, Cam Smith and Cam Young. And we were like, great. You'll hear from us twice. It'll be a nice stroll around the old course at St. Andrews. And then he goes to course and fires a 64 on that day. He's got incredible mad talent. I wish we could still see him play. I think it was Jay that said it earlier in the podcast here. I don't remember it exactly, but someone said that all of the machinations and all these changes and all these things that are happening, the thing that's ironic is that it's going to make the majors even better, because it's going to be the stage where all of these players come together and we see them playing against each other again. So, yeah, for me, for my part, I'm sorry that he's not there. What about you, Jay?
He's a head scratcher to me. I love, first of all, I love the kid. I love his game. It was a coming out party for him last year. He wins the Players. He wins the Open Championship, and unlike any have shot 64 and closed with 31 at St. Andrews. You know, he's a guy that cuts his own grass down there in Jacksonville, and he's just a great kid. Why he would jump to live, it's a head scratcher to me. I mean, but look, these guys are grown men. They make their decision. The thing that pisses me off is that to come back and try to sue the place that you left because you want to have it both ways is just, you know, typical of somebody with their head up their ass. You know, it just makes no sense to me. I miss him dearly. I love watching him play. He is one of the best putters you're ever going to see, especially under pressure. But look, he did what he did. I can promise you guys, whether this becomes public or not, there is a boatload of those boys that have buyer's remorse right now, because there's not one of those assholes that doesn't want to be playing in Jacksonville right now. I can promise you. Vince, walking.
Jay, I wish you wouldn't mince words, Jay. I really wish you would.
But pulling into your parking spot and the week begins, right?
Yeah, again, so many ramifications with making that decision. My feeling is I'm not angry. I'm sad. I'm sad that people, that guys can't be around to represent or return to a place where they had some glory. And that's the hard part for me, is not seeing these guys come back and to a spot of glory. And we have to come up with some middle ground here. We have to come up with, cooler heads have to prevail. We have to have a plan. I don't know how long that's going to take, but
Vince, the players may be the one place. The players may be the one place.
The Masters might be too, though, right? The Masters.
Yeah, but on the PGA Tour, because all the majors are getting all the players. All the best players will be playing the PGA Championship, the Open,
which is great.
Which is great, exactly. But the players might be the one place where everyone is allowed into. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No way. Hey guys, think of it this way. But every one of us is Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, Tony Finau. All of these guys passed up $100 million deals, right?
Well, Jay, let me ask you this. Jay, can I ask you like kind of an older guy question here again?
Yeah.
And this reminds me of how I grew up as opposed to how I will see like my grandchild grew up. When I grew up, I had very few voices that were in my ear. My family, my school, my coaches, maybe, and the church. That's really it. Today, you're bombarded with voices that will tell you that you should do this or you can do this, and this option is really another option. And I think these guys are their world is different in terms of the landscape of how they see it. I'm not making an excuse for anyone. I'm just saying that now I think young players are hearing more voices.
Vince, 100%. It's much harder, much difficult. Plus, these guys are their own brand, right?
Yeah.
We weren't anything like that. So I'm not saying the decision's easy, but guys, it comes down to if every one of us is a guy that stayed on the PGA Tour and turned down that money, how am I going to let Cameron Smith back in when he took the money?
Mhm.
I turned it down. You're not going to come back in and play for our money. But guys, it's not happening soon.
No, and I think too, maybe it's, yeah, that's a great point. And I think maybe at this age, the World Golf Hall of Fame membership or being enshrined and being immortalized in there doesn't look as special as it will be in 30 to 35 years.
Mhm.
You know, it just doesn't look that way right now. And that's kind of the thing about getting older, is that you really do look at things in a different way. It doesn't, it's more of a broad scope. And I guess I want to say wisdom, though I'm not that smart, but I think maybe you look at things a little different. That's all.
Guys, I have 4 daughters, and raising those daughters, and I didn't have the tour career that I hoped for. If somebody would have called me and said, dude, we're going to give you, pick a number, $20 million, that's small potatoes for what they're offering. I would have thought long and hard, and depending on my age, I probably would have taken it. But I wouldn't have gone back and tried to sue because I wanted to play with the group that I just left. I mean, make your bed, lie in it, and then suffer the ramifications, because you lost the Ryder Cup now. The Ryder, guys, this alters everything.
It does.
It alters history. It alters the record books. It alters everything.
When you said it,
I don't know.
You said it, Jay. The age makes a difference. Like the Poulters, McDowell, makes sense. They're in the twilight of their PGA Tour career. Yeah, maybe it makes sense to go and take a golden handshake. But DeChambeau, Koepka, Johnson, obviously Cam Smith, I think, is a massive loss and a bad decision, because especially now with all this extra money available on the tour, they would have made plenty of money, right? So maybe not.
If you watch Full Swing, and what did Dustin Johnson say? He goes, I play less golf and I make more money. And
yeah, that's right.
You know, at least
how bad did Koepka look? Koepka made himself look, I mean, just it looked like he had lost his confidence. And, you know, guys, as soon as you experience an injury, and so DeChambeau, as you said on there, Mike, I would give him more of a pass, because the way he's attacking his career, he may be 2 swings away from never playing again. We don't know this Tiger-esque style of game, how guys' bodies are going to work out. Most of the guys, I'm 6'5" away, 205. Most of the guys were either lean like I was, or chubby and soft and really flexible. Good athletes and everything, but you know, you're not seeing that anymore. These guys are working out, they're fit, and they're going at the ball at ball speeds, and they're moving their bodies. We don't know what the life expectancy is going to be here.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great point. And I think too, well, I had a couple of points. One was on Koepka, which I saw him covered that at Shinnecock when he won the US Open there. And to me, his game, not only is he talented, but his game was he's like 85% swag and confidence. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, that guy walks out and he looks like what DeChambeau kind of made him out to be. The guy in the Letterman jacket in the 60s would push guys into lockers, you know, and when that is changed or it's moved or it's damaged a little bit, I think that can make a big difference. But Jay, to your point about the way guys play today, you know, when I was in high school, and this is no offense to golf at all, a lot of the guys who played golf were guys that didn't play football or baseball or basketball. They took
right.
Now your athletes, your high school and junior high athletes, they are choosing golf. Right. That's why guys are more athletic than ever. Mm-hmm. So they are now putting all of their baggage or their attention into that game. And that's what we're seeing right now. But I agree, Jay, look at the swing. Look at the swing now as compared to, you know, how you were taught to swing a club. It's incredible.
Right. It's just incredible. And, you know, we owe all this to Tiger. The way the game's played, we owe to Tiger. The money is to Tiger. The fact that your point, Vince, spot on about these young kids, they're going, why the hell would I want to play football? I'll start picking up a golf club. I can play this the rest of my life. And I can make equal amounts of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll play longer.
Back in the day. And we'll play longer. Yeah. It's
without concussions.
Great for the game.
Yeah, it certainly is great for the game. You know, when I was growing up, 40 years ago, when I started playing the game, I mean, the game was completely different. You learned how to do a reverse C. You need to get behind the ball, get your power behind the ball to get lift. And it was a lot of fun, but there's a lot more competition out there. And that brings me to our picks for the week, guys. Think about it. There's so many great players playing this week. Probably the best field we'll see all year next to the majors. So, you know, I'm going with, you know, guys that played pretty well in the past. You know, Justin Thomas is my pick. He's coming off, you know, a win in 2021. He knows this golf course. He loves it out here. And I think he'll play really well. And with a runner-up finish in 2018, Xander Schauffele, when he's on, if he could just get that putter going, I think he's going to have a great shot out here. Maybe starting with Matt, do you have any favorites for this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going very far out in the limb, but John Rahm would be my favorite. If I was picking a kind of darker horse, I would say Keegan Bradley. I like the way that he controls his golf ball, and when he's on form and in flight, I think he can win an event of this stature. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I was thinking of Rahm as well. So I don't know. These are the ones that, you know, we talked about making a pick out of a field like this. It's always very difficult, but it's good fodder for shows like this. Should I just take a stab at someone and just throw a name out there,
Yeah.
like a Patrick Cantley or somebody like that? Maybe he, you know, somebody who, you know, has a good all around game. And yeah, I don't know whose week it might be. I don't know, but like we've said in the past, you do get the Craig Perks of the world and the Stephen Ames of the world, and guys that, you know, they have that glorious 4 days.
Yeah, guys. I mean, when you're picking in the top, you know, from the top 10, it's literally like, you know, whoever's putter is probably the hottest is going to make a lot of sense. I'm not even sure if Ricky's in the field, because
he did win in 2015, and his game's coming around.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a sentimental pick. I don't know. When I saw him with that 30, what did he have, a 38-inch putter or something? I thought, oh man. But his game is definitely coming to form, and my hat's off to him for repairing the relationship with Butch and going back and because usually, guys, when a player breaks up with their coach, it's, you know, it's gone for good. So I would love to see someone like him win, but you know, Jordan Spieth has been showing great form as well.
Yeah.
Those are really out on a limb.
I'll take a big risk and call Tyrrell Hatton.
Okay.
He's a dark horse indeed. If he can keep that temper in check, you never know. He's been showing positive signs lately.
Hey, what do you think of Finau? You mentioned Finau. I mean, what do you think of Finau this year? Is he one to watch as far as really maybe breaking out, even though he had the wins last year?
I think he is, Vince, because I think he finally, you know, got over the hump where he was playing a lot of great golf and almost had tournaments taken from him. And I think when he won the 3M, it showed him that he didn't have to have everything firing on all the, you know, I think it was who somebody had a big lead and kind of let it go. The young man from Las Vegas. Gosh, I'm looking right at him, can't remember his name. But anyway, he had a couple players falter, and he kind of backed into that, and then he went out and won a couple more. So I love his game. You sprinkle a little bit of magic dust or confidence, and it's like when these guys can take their games to different levels, and it'd be really neat. Tony Finau is one of the great humans. Period.
Yeah.
Forget about golfers. He's just one of the.
Jay, he was a big break contestant with his brother.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
Yes,
all
he
right.
was.
I remember.
I first met Tony Finau, And I will say this, if he wins, he'll probably be, well, if he wins his major, he'll probably be might be the biggest foot ever to win a major.
Wasn't it great to see him on full swing? I don't know if you saw the episode where now he's able to afford to travel with his family, not knowing that he has 5 kids. And it was great to see him win out on tour and see all his kids run out. And he's really an inspiration to a lot of people for many reasons.
Yeah. Hey guys, I want to clarify just one thing. When I talked and got passionate and called those guys assholes, this is my way of being sad. I hate the fact that we don't have the best players. We're going to talk about them 4 times a year. I can't. Yeah. I just hate it. And I, it's interesting, guys. If you go back and read the letter that Fred Ridley released from Augusta National, and if you look at like the 3rd and 4th and 5th paragraphs, he takes a shot at Liv by talking about how this has undermined some of the best attributes golf had, and the old great champions that, paid their way, spent their own money, had cuts, all of these things. And then, as Vince, as you said earlier, as you age, I don't know if it's wisdom, I don't know if it's sentiment, I don't know what it is, but I have that. I don't know. I don't want to say I'm wisdom, but I just look back and I'm like, man, that's really not what people think of when you think of the PGA Tour. And I'm not sure it's really what they think of the PGA Tour when you watch Full Swing either. I mean, I didn't have a private jet. It would have been really badass to have a private jet, but we didn't have
Times have changed.
Jack and Greg.
And Brooks is licking his wounds at the pool on that couch and in his backyard.
Like flamingos in the background or something.
Beautiful companion.
Hard to feel sorry for him when you see that.
Well, I was just listening.
I don't think that's a bad thing, Jay. I think you're passionate about it. And listen, that word doesn't. I grew up on the east side of Cleveland, so that's mild. We used to hear that at Mass. Yeah. We used to hear that at Mass on Sunday, so that's okay.
Let me ask you guys this: if you were Jay Monahan last year, how would you have handled this new competition in golf? Let's start with you, Vince.
Well, I think, it's so funny. Everything that Jay has done, Greg has been able to use as saying, see, well, imitation's a serious form of flattery. Well, we're glad you got your attention. Hey, he finally came around. You have to, I'm no expert in terms of branding and messaging, but I think less is more when you're talking about someone who's maybe trying to take your business away. And I think you strategize in terms of not being too reactive to what exactly is happening on that side of the world. I think it was listen, all of a sudden it didn't look great that more money was found and there's elevated events with no cut. I mean, look, it does mirror what's happening a little bit. I'm not saying it's in direct response, but it can be seen that way in some corners. So it's a very precarious spot to be in. And listen, I'm glad it wasn't, I'm not Jay and had to make that decision.
Yeah. How about you, Jay?
I would have loved to seen our commissioner and our team tap the brakes and not say anything. In terms of what Vince said, I'm in that camp. It looked reactionary. It made him look weak. It made us look weak. This is just my opinion. Again, I would have gotten my team together and I would have pulled in. One of the things that the PGA Tour, you guys, ever since I've been there, and I tried to sing this song while I was on the advisory committees and things, and it didn't go anywhere. We are a reactionary organization. We don't have anybody out in the front. We have tons of money and we have tons of opportunity to hire younger, bright, forward-thinking people while we still keep a foot into the history of the game and honor what happened has gone, before us. We looked weak, we looked reactionary, and it saddened me because we didn't have to. We could have just, like Vince said, less is more. Let me figure this out. There was probably some of this stuff already in the works, guys. Phil Mickelson's going to get a lot of credit for rattling the cage. I don't know. but no one would have been surprised if the purses went up substantially because our TV deal is so much bigger than our old one.
Right. Matt?
I think I think that Live in a lot of ways has been very beneficial to the PGA Tour today. And what I mean by that is and I'm not one who actually gives a massive amount of credit to Phil Mickelson for the changes, because I don't think Phil Mickelson had his downfall in the because he had ideas that are contrary to the PGA Tour. He had his downfall because he was revealed as a person that was something other than who they thought that he was for the last couple of decades. So I do think that after this took place, the PGA Tour realized that they could do a better job in the communication with their members. They could do a better job with how they structured, call it reserve fund, or what they were doing with the money in terms of putting it in a position so that the stars were not tempted by the fruit of another tour. And like I said, the players that went, they went. They made a decision, and now they're living with the decision they made, for better or for worse. So ultimately, the fact that the purses are up on the PGA Tour, we know that the pension programs through the PGA Tour, the benefits that it provides, and the charities that golf contributes, all really good for the game of golf. I think it was a really difficult road to get there. You guys talk about Jay Monahan and not wanting to be in his shoes at that point. He was under so much pressure in terms of what they were doing. And I agree that many times it's not just the PGA Tour, golf's governing bodies oftentimes are incredibly reactionary in what they do and how. I don't possess, like many people do, I don't possess.
Well, looks like we're losing Matt a little bit. I just wanted to be able to. Yeah, you're breaking down a little bit, Matt. Sorry about that. I missed you there at the end. But I certainly, I just want to say thank you for coming on, guys. It really means a lot to Mike and myself. Vince, Jay, and Matt, we've been following your careers, and believe it, there's a lot of us who have been in the industry for many years. Mike and I have been in the golf industry on and off for a number of years. I'm a golf teaching professional, still teach. It's my 24th season. I'm celebrating as a coach and instructor, and playing since I was a kid. And I'll tell you, you guys are the faces that we remember. Well, we grew up listening not only to your voices, but watching you play, like Jay. And so it means a lot to us, to Mike and me, for you guys to come out and share your thoughts and your time with us. Make sure you send us your addresses, and we'll get you some merch very soon. Is there anybody you'd like to thank, or if you could just maybe pitch, where can we get in touch with you? Where can we see you? Maybe starting with Jay. I know you got a new show, Beyond the Fairways podcast. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're involved with.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have Beyond the Fairways. We just started last week. We had Faraday on. This Wednesday, we drop our second show. We got Tom Watson. Third show's Lee Trevino. I got the pleasure of doing this with Danny McLaughlin, who's the voice of the Cardinals, won 4 Emmys. And so it's really fun to do. And thanks for the opportunity. I've got my Golf with Jay Delsing show on ESPN, and I drop that as a podcast as well. So you might get stuck in an airport somewhere and hear my voice and, just change the channels. You can find me at Jay at Delsing Golf or jdelsinggolf.com, guys. But I'm glad to be with you.
Guys, you just, plucked me out of doing a couple of things here. We're still doing PGA Tour Champions Learning Center, which is, instruction and interviews with the guys. I love being with the over 50 set. They're the best. Just, it's great camaraderie and it's great competition. Still contributing to Golf Channel here and there. Also, I'm doing some teaching at Full Sail University, some sportscasting teaching coming up online. So I'm an adjunct teacher for the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting, which I'm really excited about, to work with young people who have a passion about the business here. And I do a little commercial work, and I do a very, very poor acting, but it's acting work as well, commercial wise, and in film too, and TV.
Awesome.
So well, that's really great. That's really, really amazing. One of the things that brings me back to watching the Golf Channel is, Vince, all the shows that you did, right? Just all the great shows that you did. And I love the Champions Tour. Can you tell those boys to start uploading stuff on YouTube so we could get the younger generation to start seeing these casts that you're doing, as well as updating the Champions Tour page? Because I think the Champions Tour needs a lot more exposure, but I don't know how big the team is in media.
I know, I couldn't agree more. And what I would love to do, and Jay, I think you would really enjoy this, I would love to do a monthly summit with 2 or 3 players and tape that and have Golf Channel air that as a show, maybe a half-hour show, talking about not only some of the subject matter in golf, but in life as well. Because, Jay, the nice thing too about being older is they're freed up in order to share opinions and really.
You don't care as much.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. And, for example, and I don't want to hold up the show. For example, we did a Ryder Cup show where we had 4 past Ryder Cup captains. Corey Pavin, Davis Love was on. Colin Montgomery. And I can't remember the 4th guy. What's the year? I'm having a moment. But anyway, what these guys talked about in terms of the background of choosing Ryder Cup players, being a team captain, how you leave people off the roster, how you manage personalities. There really are a fountain of information about the history of the game. It's walking history of the game. So that's the part that, I wish we had more exposure as well. So maybe we'll work toward that.
I think Golf Channel could use more programming like that, because it's great to see all the live events and all that, but I think they rerun the events too often, where it'd be great to see them taking a page from the past and bringing in, like I love the Big Break, but all the live shows, and it would be really cool to see more programming. So good luck with that, Vince.
Thanks.
Look forward to seeing
All right.
some more.
Well, guys, I guess, are we done? Or was that it?
We're just going to get them. Yeah, we're almost done. We're just going to get Matt to plug where we could hear him. He's on Fairways of Life, NBC and Golf Channel. Any honorable mentions? Where can we see you this weekend, Matt?
I told you guys, I'm honored to be on with Vince. He's been a friend for a long time. He's a mentor of mine. I look up to what he's done tremendously.
That's sweet. That's so sweet of you to say that.
Yeah, just so nice.
Although Vince, when you said grandparent, are you a grandfather now?
I am a grandfather of a 5-month-old grandson.
Wow.
Awesome,
So,
bro.
yeah, it's really amazing. Jay, are you a grandparent as well?
I am. I have 4 daughters, and I actually have a grandson now, which is a completely different animal. So I have a granddaughter who's got 3 and a grandson who's 1. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's crazy cool.
That is awesome. And it just to kind of echo what Vince was saying, to have a chance to pick the brain of players. My favorite tables to sit at are guys that were around the game 20, 30, 40 years ago, because there's just nothing like those stories. Because remember, all those guys were bridges to prior generations too. And they were hanging out with guys that go back 20, 30, 40 years as well. And the stories are tremendous. They are the guys that laid the foundation for the game as we know it today. None of us would be here talking today unless these guys did what they did to forge the path. So for all that, I say thanks. And Raf and Mike, thank you for taking the time to let us hang 3 old vets to hang out together.
And thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me on. It was great.
Raf and I are pinching ourselves a little bit because it's just still getting used to having guys we've been watching on TV for decades now, and you're here on the pod. So
I'm still upright. Who knew?
Yeah.
I'm kind of upright. I'm sitting down. I can fall down at any time.
Yeah, so we're very appreciative, and right now it's live on YouTube. Tomorrow it'll be published on all the pod platforms, and we'd appreciate a share and a retweet. Sure. And anyone listening and watching right now as well would love a subscribe, engage with us. It goes a long way. Thank you very much.
See you guys. Thank you.
Okay,
all right, Jay, I'd like to get your number, Jay, before we sign off. Well, after we
let me cut the feed, Vince, and when once it's done, then you guys can exchange numbers.
Gotcha.
All right, so I'm just going to wrap this up. For Matt Adams, Jay Delsing, Vince Cellini, I'm Rafael Kalamat alongside Michael Bleackley. You've been listening to